What's up, everybody? It's the Alex Leak and Friends NFL podcast back for another week. I'm your host, Alex Leak. We got Pablo back on the show. Good to have you, Pablo.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
And we have a great guest, an absolute legend, back on the show for his third time. Dolphins All-Pro tackle, protected Dan Marino's blindside, Richmond Webb. Great to have you on the show, Richmond.
Alex, Pablo, how you guys doing today? I'm doing good. What's going on?
Doing great. Great to have you on, man. Always a great time.
Yeah,
This Go ahead, Pablo.
yeah, it's a pleasure, man. It's a pleasure to meet you, man.
I appreciate that. Yes, sir.
So, this is the 2023 Miami Dolphins season preview. We're excited for the season. Training camp right around the corner. Richmond Webb, for those of you that don't know, played for the Dolphins from 1990 to 2000, was a seven-time Pro Bowler and a member of the NFL's 1990s All-Decade team. Uh, So let's get into this. Richmond, the Dolphins coming off a 9-8 season where they made the playoffs for the first time since 2016. Rookie head coach Mike McDaniel gets the Dolphins back into the playoffs, and a really hard fought, great wild card playoff game against the Bills goes 34-31. Um, were you optimistic about how that game went against Buffalo? The Bills were a contender. You guys playing on a third string quarterback, but it was really a hard fought game, and you guys had a chance to win that game.
No question. And you brought up a key fact. Playing with our third string quarterback, and I thought our defense played extremely well. We got the running game going, and so got some turnovers. And going into that game, knowing we had a third string quarterback, people didn't give us much of a chance to win that football game. But I was proud of the fact that even though we didn't win, the way they played, the effort they went out and put out, because a lot of times teams they'll say, Dolphins don't play well in cold weather. And I think the previous year we went up there in December and kind of really stunk the place up. So I think that definitely showed growth. And, just imagine if we would have had our starting quarterback, I think things would have been a little bit different. But definitely proud of those guys, and they continue to make moves and transactions and position themselves to where they can be even better in 2023. Just got to stay healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Pablo. You got a question?
I got a question. I'm a big fan. Obviously, 1990s all-decade team NFL. Richmond Webb, he is a legend. I'm usually keen on the Hall of Fame and basically how everything runs these days. Now, your former teammate on the offensive line during the 90s, Keith Sims, went on the Big O radio show a few months ago, and he said it was time that you finally got that nod into the Hall of Fame. Obviously, you got 7 Pro Bowls. Obviously, you're a Dolphins honor roll member. What did you think of that?
Well, I think I definitely had a resume for it. Before we started the show, me and Alex were talking, and I shared with him that Zach Thomas actually got in, a guy that, we both played with, and I'll be going up this year for that to support him. I went when Jason went in. I also went when Dan went in. But, I think I got the resume. I think eventually I'll have a pretty good chance to get in there. It's just tough when there's so many guys deserving that, get in there, and then they only take 5 or 6 guys at a time. So anytime we get another Dolphin in there, I'm happy. And like I said, me and Alex were talking, that was a huge accomplishment. So looking forward to that. But I'll just keep waiting. But I think I got a shot at it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
hopefully you get it, because it's not many people have such a career and like not end up being in the Hall of Fame. And
Yeah.
do you think the fact that they usually consider rings so much these days, do you think that's also a factor?
Considering what was the
Super Bowl
part?
rings.
Super Bowl, yeah.
I I do think they put a lot of weight on, being a Super Bowl champion, this and that. And, we went to the AFC Championship game and we didn't win that, but sometimes I have mixed feelings about that because you can't control it. You know, I think there were times where we had really good teams and then we got stopped short due to injuries. So it's a lot of factors that actually go in and actually making the Super Bowl and getting there, this and that. So
Absolutely.
hats off to people that have achieved that. That was one of the things that I wanted to achieve, at least get an opportunity to play, and I didn't get that opportunity. But I have tremendous respect for guys that, you know, go play in one or a couple Super Bowls. That's the highest stage. You can't get any bigger than that. But basically, it should be on your individual statistics and not always on a team thing. But
Yeah.
I don't think it necessarily goes that way all the time. But that's a great question.
Yeah. So the big story last year, we already talked about it, how, you know, the quarterback issues and being on a third string quarterback. Tua had a tough year as far as staying healthy, suffered, you know, 2 or 3 concussions, was unable to finish the season or play in the playoff game. That's got to be, you know, goal number 1 this offseason, protect Tua. Tua appears to be bigger and stronger heading into camp. He's being trained on how to fall to avoid hitting his head, practicing jujitsu and stuff like that. How important is coaching a quarterback how to take a hit and try to avoid serious injury? Or is that possible, or is that kind of out of your control, do you think?
Well, I think you coach a player in the quarterback position. You know, I think, you know, he has to realize, and I think he does, the huge drop off it is when he's not in the game. So a lot of times as a quarterback, I think sometimes you try to make every play, and rather than saying, hey, it's a 4-quarter game, sometimes it's a field position, you know, you battle for that back and forth, this and that. But sometimes it's better. Sometimes you might go 3 and out. Sometimes you might say the goal is get 2 first downs to get us in a better position where we can punt and hopefully our defense can stop them, and you kind of play the field position game. So you got to realize that. But sometimes trying to make too many plays and leaving yourself exposed, this and that, you got to protect yourself. And I think what he went through this past year, I think he kind of realizes that. And I think that's why you hear about him taking the jiu-jitsu and really focusing in on that. Because I think at times he would try to just hold it to the last minute, and then he wouldn't protect himself. You see some of the hits that he took, the way he fell, it wasn't advantageous to him. And so I think he realizes now I got to just stay healthy, because I think it shook him up a little bit, as much as, you know, concussion protocol and the things that they're putting in. And you see guys that played back when I played or even earlier, some of the issues that they're having. You know, he even contemplated retirement. So I think he understands that, and I think he'll be much more efficient and understanding that, hey, I need to get out and can't take those type of hits.
Yeah, we all hope he can stay healthy and avoid those, you know, scary head injuries, really. Go ahead, Pablo.
Yeah. Hey, Rich. So obviously it takes a lot to be a left tackle in the in the NFL, and it takes a lot to actually be a Pro Bowl left tackle. No, obviously it takes a lot to be a 7-time Pro Bowler. What do you think makes a great Pro Bowl left tackle? Because I'm a Ravens fan. I look at our Pro Bowl left tackle, Ronnie Stanley, obviously has been battling with injuries the past few years. And he is one of the smartest players on the team. And he understands the entire O-line and basically every single position. He can basically tell the center and the guard what to do. What do you think makes the best left tackle?
Well, I think one is you got to be consistent. Definitely got to be consistent. I think the reason the attention is brought so much to the left tackle position is that most quarterbacks are right-handed, and that's the blind side when they drop back. So you got to trust that you put a guy over there that's going to be consistent. And not saying he won't get beat, but it's going to be very few times that he get beat, because that's when the quarterback's most vulnerable, because he can't see what's coming from behind him. And I think it's that, just being a smart player and really being efficient at what you do. And that's what you typically find in the guys that play the position and play it well, is that, you know, very consistent. You know, they don't get hurt too much, this and that. And they're there, you know, game in and game out to help that team win, because a quarterback, if he's constantly getting hit from his blind side, he's not going to be comfortable in the pocket, this and that. And then that can affect the whole production of the whole offensive scheme that you're trying to execute for that game. So those are some of the characteristics. You got to be a great athlete and just technically sound and be consistent in his play. Those are some of the things you look for in not even a tackle, but any offensive lineman, but that's what you got to get done.
Now, speaking of another way to protect Tua, your running game, the Dolphins' running game is really good. They've got Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, Myles Gaskin, and now you draft and add in Devon Achane from your Texas A&M Aggies. And Mike McDaniel comes from the 49ers, who have a great running game as well. And do you think that's something that could also help protect Tua, is a balanced offense, or even maybe a more run-oriented offense? I know you got some great wide receiver weapons as well.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that anytime you can have a balanced attack, or when you're only one way or once, it's easier for the defense to kind of scheme for you, because they know if you're a pass-heavy team, they don't worry so much about the run. But when you kind of got balance, and like you said, we drafted Devon Achane, and matter of fact, I was back at College Station this past weekend for one of my former teammates. It was his funeral, but went to that and actually got an opportunity to see Coach Jimbo Fisher. And we were talking about Devon Achane. And, one of the things he said was when Devon played at A&M, he was a guy that in the offseason always ran track. So he said now you'll probably see him bulk up 10 or 15 pounds because now he's just playing football. And so he said he should be fine. And if he could do that at A&M and he bulks up, put a little weight on his body, he should be good. And then the other thing is, I don't think it's etched in stone, but it's a possibility that I know we've been talking with Dalvin Cook from, formerly from the Vikings, and that's another weapon that we could add. And it seems like Coach McDaniel's adding all this speed and this and that. And so it could be really exciting for the Dolphins this year. So we just have to wait and see. But I love the running back room so far. But if we get Dalvin Cook, that's going to be icing on the cake.
Yeah, Alex is not a big fan of Mike McDaniels. Could you convince him and tell him that he's actually a really good coach?
You know what, Pablo? I think the thing is, I think Coach McDaniel has met with him. I think the thing that may help us as well is Dalvin is from Miami, and time growing up, he probably was a Dolphin, and get to come home and play for the team you kind of grew up rooting for, this and that. And with all the pieces of the puzzle, you say, hey, not only this team really has opportunity to maybe get in the playoffs, and then anything we might have a shot for, maybe going to a Super Bowl. Just depends on, health. There's a lot of factors early, but if you look at just the way the roster is stacked and loaded, and then the way the changes they did on defense with bringing in Coach Fangio, this and that, it could be a really exciting year for the Dolphins. So we just got to stay healthy, and everything comes together. We'll wait and see.
Yeah, I think Dalvin Cook is a huge domino to fall wherever he goes. I was talking about this when Bills and Jets season previews as well. It's like the entire AFC East seems to be interested in Dalvin Cook. Whoever gets him not only gets his talent, but keeps the other teams in the division from getting him. So if the Dolphins get him, that's huge. I'm a big fan of his. Last year, he started all 17 games, 1,500 combined yards, 10 touchdowns. I don't really see him as regressing. He's still a home run threat. I think that's a huge add for whoever gets him.
Oh, no question. And like you said, not only just running the football, but, screens. So many, you can put him in so many different packages or use him in so many multiple ways that he can be effective. And he's that type of player also that the first guy missing, he gets in the secondary, it could be a foot race. So it's just, when you have guys with that playmaking ability, this and that, it makes a huge difference. And I remember you talked about Coach McDaniel when he was at the 49ers. You know, we all know about Deebo Samuel and the impact, and then they added McCaffrey last year. So you got to have those type of guys that have that big playability, and Dalvin Cook is definitely one of those guys. And I'd rather have him on our team than on one of the FC East teams. You have to see him twice a year, I'll tell you that.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Pablo.
Yeah, Dolphin is amazing, and obviously the Dolphins it makes a lot of sense for the Dolphins because they need that workhorse running back. Obviously, the Bills also need that workhorse running back, but obviously the cap issue is up there, but obviously being a Pro Bowl left tackle, being someone that basically faced some of the best pass rushers in the 90s, I need to ask about this. Obviously, Bruce Smith, Lawrence Taylor, those are some of the guys that you came up against. Who was probably the worst pass rusher to come up against, and basically is at the Bills. What was the Bills defensive pass rush that good in the 90s? Because everyone speaks about Bruce Smith like he's probably one of the best edge rushers ever.
Oh yeah, Bruce was the toughest guy, and like you said, playing the Bills back then, and I put Bruce Smith and Reggie White kind of in a class together, and then it was a little drop. Lawrence Taylor was good. He was an outside linebacker, but I didn't have to play against him because I played against him, but not twice a year like I did Bruce Smith. So I saw him twice, sometimes 3 times a year, because sometimes we play him in the playoffs. But, you know, he could play against the run, the pass. He was the complete player. And, you know, it was 60 minutes of hell that you know you was going to go. But, you know, you look forward to a challenge like that because when you play against the best, you kind of see how you measure up. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But, you know, I think, you know, the battles were pretty close. Sometimes I won, sometimes he won. But that's just the nature of the game. But, yeah, that was definitely the toughest guy. And then speaking of the Bills, you know, they had Cornelius Bennett on the other side, and then they had Ted Washington, big nose tackle. So they could really put pressure on the quarterback. And then I think eventually added Bryce Pop. He was a linebacker, played at Green Bay. So everybody talks about the Bills' offense, but back in the 90s, their defense was extremely well. And I think that's why they had the success that they had as far as going to 4 Super Bowls in a row. So, yeah, you hit the nail on the head with that.
Nice. Good question, Pablo. Speaking of defense, let's stay on that side of the ball. The Dolphins fired DC Josh Boyer after last season and replaced him with former 49ers and Bears defensive coordinator Vic Fangio. He's had some of the best defenses in the game, multiple teams that led the NFL in turnovers. A bit upgraded the position, and the Dolphins should have a top 5 to 10 defense on paper. You add Jalen Ramsey as well. How excited are you to see Vic Fangio get his hands on this defense?
I think Coach Fangio is excited himself. You know, and I think he's coached Chubb, the outside linebacker, and Jason Phillips. You got those 2 at outside linebackers. So you got Jalen Ramsey, and you got Xavier Howard, you got Javon Holland. I mean, it's just loaded. And once he put his tweak on it and turn those guys loose, and he's a guy that's known as being the best. Like I say, he's consistently finishing the top 10, top 5 defenses several years in a row. So one thing he does know is defense. And like you said, great coordinator. And he's been a head coach in this league. I think that takes pressure off of Coach McDaniel by having somebody also that has head coaching experience. I think can do nothing but help. I think the defensive players are excited about the system he's installing. And anytime you get that everybody on board and buying in what you're doing, I think that's why so much excitement in South Florida right now is they know what we could do offensively. Like you said, you let Boyer go, but now you bring in Fangio, and then you look at his past record of how if you got a top 5, top 10 offense and defense, you should be pretty good in the NFL. So I think that's why the fans and everything are excited.
Yeah, and speaking of that secondary, it might be the best corner duo in the NFL, adding Jalen Ramsey to Xavier Howard. And then not only that, you drafted corner Cam Smith in the 2nd round. He looks like a pretty good corner as well.
So think about being a quarterback and you got to go against that type of defense, and then you got pass rushers that can get up the field. I mean, everybody should be happy. You're gonna be throwing the ball, getting turnovers or sacks, forced fumbles. It could be really, really tough to play against the Dolphins when you good on both sides of the ball like that, because you're a complete team, and it just really makes it tough to try to game plan for a team like that. So
Yeah.
I'm excited. I think it's going to be fun this year.
Hell yeah. Go ahead, Pablo.
Yeah, speaking of teams that are going to be difficult to game plan against. Now, I know Richmond, you were born in Texas, you're born in Dallas. Now, obviously you were drafted in Miami. Were your family Cowboys fans, and do you still have family that are Cowboys fans, or are they all like Dolphins fans now?
Yeah, I got some, but my immediate family, all of them, they kind of converted over when I went to the Dolphins. And then I think they still root for the Cowboys as long as they're not playing the Dolphins. I grew up a Cowboy fan. I was old school. Drew Pearson, Roger Staubach, Tony Dorsett. Too Tall Jones, Harvey Martin, all those guys. Those were the guys that I looked up. Grew up right in Dallas, and they had some really good teams. Tom Landry was coach, kind of like Don Shula back then, and yeah, that was it. Dallas Cowboys. But once I got drafted, my immediate family shifted over. But I still got some undercover Cowboy fans. This family that try to fly up under. They try to act like they rooting for the Dolphins, but if we would go play the Cowboys, they would say they're rooting for the Dolphins, but I think they was rooting for the Cowboys. But I didn't hold it against them. I said, yeah, y'all.
That's awesome. Now, what do you think? So, what were the Jets like when you were playing? They didn't really have that star quarterback. They got their best Aaron Rodgers on the team now, probably the best quarterback they've had since Joe Namath. Championship expectations in New York. Is this interesting for you to see the Jets as contenders compared to when you faced them back in your career?
Yeah, the Jets, and I think it's still to this day, and I tell people this all the time, the Jets, I mean, that's definitely a rivalry, but the Jets cannot have a really good team, and then they come play the Dolphins, and they play like they Super Bowl contenders. The rivalry always worked out like that, and so it's always, you could never, for the Dolphins, you never could underestimate the Jets, because it seems like when they came to play us, for some reason, they could put on the best game, and we were in a dogfight. And a lot of times they would beat us, and most of the time we get them. But that's what I remember about the Jets, and it ain't changed today. So, but definitely, like you said, with the acquisition of Aaron Rodgers, you definitely got to respect that. One of the best to ever, take a snap from under center. I don't know all the pieces they got around them, but I'm hoping it's not that good. I hope it did. I hope they don't meet expectations. That's what I'm saying that, because we're in the same division. I want us to win the division, and yeah. So yeah, but I got to give them credit. They got some good players over there.
Pablo wrote a really good piece on Dine Sports about the Jets getting the Hard Knocks this year. As a Dolphins fan, are you going to watch the Jets Hard Knocks just to keep an eye on them?
I might watch a little bit of, not to keep an eye on them, but I might, because normally do a pretty good job with the production and all that. So regardless of the team is normally pretty good. So I'll probably check out a little bit of Hard Knocks. Yeah. If I get some tips, maybe I can send them down to South Florida and say, hey, I noticed this, they were doing this and that, and Pablo kind of sent me a couple of notes and saying, hey, watch out for this or that. So yeah, we'll put it together.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the plug, man. Yeah, I'll send you some notes, Rich. No problem. Obviously, there's some teams that obviously play in small markets. There's some teams that play in huge markets. Obviously, the Dolphins play in a huge market. Everyone watches Miami, and obviously, it's a sports town. New York is one of them. The Jets. Teams like the Buffalo Bills obviously play in a small market. They don't get a lot of attention in previous years. They do these days because obviously they're a contender team. What do you think factors in for a player that's playing in a small market to compare to a big market? Because sometimes you might see someone go to a team like the Rams in LA and they don't play that well. What do you think that factors into a player moving teams?
A lot of times, and it just depends on the person and how focused you are. And you bring up a great point. Some guys probably do better in a smaller market area because there's less distractions, this and that. But if you're a guy that's tempted by nightlife and some always to do New York, Chicago, LA, Miami, and now you got Vegas. So it's certainly that, if that's your weak point, you need to, if you drafted there, you got to do what you got to do. But if it's, sign it as a free agency or whatever, you got to say, well, hey, rather than go there, maybe I need to go somewhere like Green Bay. Maybe I need to go somewhere like, Indianapolis is a little smaller market. Like you said, Buffalo, you got to, even Nashville, it's just, you gotta think smart, because if you can't handle it, the next thing you know, you'll be getting your walking papers out the door, and they'll be bringing somebody else in. So you definitely got to consider stuff like that, and that's a great point. And I think a lot of times teams look at, they study players and stuff like that and see where they came from, and if they've had issues with hanging out and stuff like that. A lot of the bigger market teams might try to shy away from him and say, well, he'll be a better fit, on a smaller market team. So that's a great, but you got to recognize that as an individual, as a player, and say, hey, this is my job. This is how I make my living. This is how I take care of my family. I got to be smart about this. If I'm gonna party and do this, do it in off season, but don't mess up your income. I tell people that all the time.
Yeah. Looking forward to the 2023 season opener for the Dolphins, week 1 at the Chargers. A lot of comparisons about Tua and Justin Herbert. So a great game for Tua to potentially play well, get the season out to a good start, get a big road win, and compare himself with Justin Herbert, see how he plays. Are you excited about that season opener?
Yeah, I think they were 5th and 6th selections. I think they was drafted right after each other. So, they're probably pretty cool, but at the same time, they're very competitive. And, you always hear about the quarterback comparisons, this and that. And you always want to shine when you're playing against, one of your buddies, or even if they're on other teams and you play the same position, especially quarterback. It could be, well, it's in LA now. I keep thinking San Diego Chargers because it was when I played. But yeah, you get to go out to LA and play against the Chargers and this and that. So it should be a huge game. I know the NFL is going to hype it up when you got 2 of your young premier, upcoming quarterbacks playing start the NFL season off week 1. So that's definitely going to be a highly televised game. So I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Pablo.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, most people might forget this, but you actually played on the Cincinnati Bengals for 2 years, between 2001 and 2002. Now, the Bengals, all of a sudden, they're a contender with Joe Burrow. They are obviously another 2020 draftee, obviously, first overall. Now, do you like the Bengals? Do you root for them? What do you think of the team? Do you think there's a chance they can finally win a Super Bowl? They've been to 3, they've lost 3. Do you think there's a chance for them?
I think they're a very good team. I didn't look at all the acquisitions. I know they got Joe Burrow, Chase. They got a really good defense. I like their head coach. He's young, this and that. So when I'm not rooting for I do look at the Bengals, and I'm happy they're having success. And they treated me extremely well coming from Miami when I went up there for those 2 seasons. They welcomed me with open arms, and I say they got some of the best diehard fans I ever seen, because when I went there, they hadn't won. They probably hadn't won in 10, 11 years. And to see the dedication and them still rooting support for their team as hard as they did, I was like, man, that's worth the weight in gold. So when people can support you in the bad times, and then now that they've had, like you said, they've had a little success. They went to the Super Bowl, and I thought they were a player too. They possibly could have won that Super Bowl. I think the first one, but it didn't happen. But they're consistently knocking on that door. So they just got to keep that core together. And then, they're one of those teams. Cincinnati, Kansas City is one of those teams. And hopefully the Dolphins are saying, hey, let's see if we can get in the room with those guys, because that's the standard. Those are the teams you got to expect to be there. They've got experience. They've been there before. And so when you get in those big games, I think a lot of times the stage can get a bit too big sometimes because you get overhyped and nervous, and they've been there. But since they've been there, they got a little bit of experience. That gives them a little edge. But that's where we're trying to get to, where we're consistently like Cincinnati or Kansas City or whatever. And those guys, you got to match their intensity, their level of play and all that. So looking forward to it. But yeah, I do keep up with the Bengals and this and that. And like I said, they treated me well. As long as they're not playing the Dolphins, I can.
Speaking of big games and contenders in the AFC, Week 9, the Dolphins play the Chiefs in Germany. Tyreek Hill against his old team. There's going to be fireworks in that game, and it's a potential playoff AFC championship game type matchup, a game where, kind of the Dolphins can see how they stack up against the best team in the conference. You have to be excited for that in Germany. That atmosphere is probably going to be crazy.
I am excited. And, I was talking to a Dolphin fan that lives in Kansas City. And at first, they were thinking that game was going to be in Kansas City. So he was saying, man, you ought to come up for the game, watch the game at Arrowhead Stadium, this and that. And it's going to be one of those games. And I'm happy for the people in Germany, but I wish there was one of those games we could have here in the States, because I'm sure that game is going to be lit. But just my experience, I played in a couple of overseas games, and the fan support, they come out and they really get to experience American football. So it's good for them. So, for them to have a game of that magnitude, I think that's good for them. So chance of a lifetime for our international fans. So I'm happy for them on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Good answer on that. Go ahead, Pablo. You got one more?
I have one, obviously, regarding the international games. Now, we saw the first game last season, obviously Seattle and Tom Brady, the Bucks faced up in Munich. This game is going to be in Frankfurt, obviously, between the Chiefs and the Dolphins. And the thing for me here is, do you think the NFL is trying to do a little bit too much, or what is the thought on the strategy that the NFL is taking with in terms of these international games? Because we've been used to London, we're slowly rolling out to Germany, and very soon we might be speaking about basically going to continents like Asia. What is your thought on like international games and basically how the NFL is rolling out? It seems like this is a new product that they're doing.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it is a product. I think NFL is a brand, and when they can go play games, like you said, if they add Asia, this and that, all it is doing is expanding their market share. Because even the people in Asia, they watch American football, but to actually have an opportunity to go to a game in Asia or whatever, that would be huge. So I don't think the NFL is trying to expand. They may, to having teams overseas, because that might be a little bit too much. But to go play games here and there and blah, 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 it gives the fans, international fans, some sense of satisfaction, because they say, we actually get to attend an NFL game rather than having to fly all the way to the States. They bringing the product to you, and you get the experience. So, Pablo, you might have a job with in the NFL front office. He owned it. So yeah, that's a great question. But I agree. I think it's going to continue to. They're going to hit probably all the continents. Maybe not Antarctica, but yeah, Australia. They always working on that, and I think it's easier because internationally they have these huge soccer stadiums, which is that's why I learned that when I was in Miami, because it's such a diverse community, and that's when I started getting into the World Cup and all that. I was like, man, I thought American football was serious, but they don't play around. That's serious right there. So
Yeah.
it's not like they have to go build an infrastructure when you got teams that play like world, in the soccer and they see the 100,000 fans. You go there and you put a NFL game in there, just draw the lines and this and that, and people gonna come watch it. I think it's great. So yeah, I
Cool.
think
All right, let's go to prediction time. Richmond, you don't have to make a prediction if you don't want to, but me and Pablo will here. If you know,
Yeah.
season
y'all
coming up.
predicted about my Dolphins or whatever.
Yep.
Oh, okay, all right, well, y'all be nice. That's all I'm say. Y'all be nice. I
Um,
see Pablo with his Baltimore Raven poster back there. Back there. That's South Florida young man too. Yeah, yeah. I see you back.
um, very tough division. I think every team in the AFC East got better. The Jets add a Hall of Fame quarterback. We'll see where Dalvin Cook lands. That's a big domino to fall. I think it's going to be hard fought. I think it's between the Bills, the Jets, and the Dolphins. I think you would agree it starts with the division. You win the division, you get a home playoff game, at least one. Um, so that's going to be a lot of fun to watch and keep an eye on this division. I have the Dolphins winning, tough division. So I got them winning 8 to 10 wins. That might be a little low, but that's my prediction. I think the key, is obviously Tua's health. If you have a healthy Tua for 17 games, then that record probably gets better.
Mm-hmm.
Added Jalen Ramsey, Vic Fangio. Um, do you think the Dolphins have what it takes to, win the division, or at least get in as a wild card this year?
I think so, and like you said, I think the teams you brought up was great. You could throw New England in there once. I think the thing with Buffalo is they're a lot. Dabo went to the Giants. He was the offensive coordinator, and then the defensive coordinator stepped down. So that's two
Yeah.
huge losses. He still got Josh Allen. He still got the players and stuff like that. But I think the way we competed it against them last year, we beat them at home. But in the playoff game, we played them pretty tough. So I think they know it's not going to just be a cakewalk in the AFC East this year. So I really like our chances. And then, like you said, you do got to respect Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, and it does depend somewhat of where Dalvin Cook lines up. I just think the additions and stuff we acquired, coaches and stuff we did, and some of the players we signed, we've really made a huge step. So I'm looking for the Dolphins to possibly win the division as long as everybody stays healthy. But I think it's going to be a Dolphin. It's not going to be easy. Whoever comes out the NFC East definitely going to earn it. I will tell you that, because it's probably going to be somebody that really is a playoff team, but just based on the way they're not going to take three teams most of the time from one division.
Yeah.
Get two out of there, it'll be good. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, Pablo? What's your thoughts going into the season on the Dolphins? Kind of your prediction, how you're feeling. I mean, some people have this team going all the way to the Super Bowl. Are you that high on them?
No, let's not go there. Like the AFC is a different machine. I don't think the
Chiefs,
Dolphins.
Bengals.
I'm sorry, Rich. I don't think the Dolphins will get to the Super Bowl. It's such a tough conference. But I agree with you. I think the 8 to 10 win range is reasonable. I think that they'll go 9 and 8. I also think the Tua health issue is massive. They need him to stay healthy, and it can go either way. They can finish 9 and 8, or they can finish something like 12 and 5, or like 11 and 6.
Yep.
I think the Bills are like I think that they're slightly like they've took a step back, like as maybe a small minute step back, but I still think they have what it takes to win the division. So I'd go the Bills win the division, just like edge it out, and I'd go the Dolphins and then the Jets. I don't think the Jets will even make it to the playoffs. I just think that's
Wow.
how great the AFC actually is. I
Yeah.
think there's always hype during the off season, and especially when during July before training camp starts, whenever there's no football. I think people like to talk, and people are speaking this way about the Raiders last year, and the Raiders finished bottom in the AFC West.
Yeah.
So I think the Jets won't make the division. I think the Dolphins and the Bills are the team to beat in this division.
Okay. Yeah. Um, what are your thoughts on that? You like that, Richmond? I mean, he doesn't have him going to the Super Bowl, but you never know. And that's the
I mean,
thing.
I respect everybody's opinion. So I mean, like I said, you gotta play the game. I mean, if you realistic, you can look good on paper, but like you said, it's so many factors that go into it. I can tell it was analytics done by both of y'all, and you're not just shooting off the top of your head, this and that. You spend some time studying the different teams and stuff like that. So I can respect it, but I'm just a little bit more biased toward the Dolphins. That ain't no big deal. So no, ain't no
Well,
love.
Here's where I'll go in your favor, though. And Pablo, tell me if you agree with this. You got a Texas A&M shirt on. You're a alumni of Texas A&M. Rookie running back Devon Achane out of the 3rd round. I'm telling you what, keep an eye on this guy. He has future star written all over him. He can affect the game in so many different ways. He's a home run threat. Anytime he touches the ball, he's got speed, tackle breaking, great hands, vision. I love this A-Chain guy. And he might start out as running back 3, but by the time the playoffs roll around and the end of the season, I think he could be a major role if they don't get Dalvin Cook, you have to be excited about taking Devon Achane in the 3rd round to your team, the Dolphins.
Me or Pablo?
You.
Oh yeah. I thought you was asking Pablo. So okay,
Sorry.
I think he's gonna have a really good career. I think he's even already started to add a little weight to his frame, this and that, and I used to love watching him in college, and that's when you can tell a guy is fast when he normally breaks in the open and he don't look to his left or right. He just keeps looking forward. I'm like, this guy is something special. So he has that big playability, and the guy misses and he gets in the secondary. It's a foot race. So I thought the Dolphins, even though they didn't have a 1st round pick, like you said, the cornerback out of South Carolina, and then taking Devon Achane in the 3rd round, I thought those were 2 great picks. So yeah, I think both of those guys are going to really help us out a lot tremendously, and play early on and make the adjustments, because I think both of them are signed and got in camp. So camp starts next week. So looking forward.
Do you like Devon Achane as well, Pablo? From what you've seen?
Yeah, I do. I think it reminds me a lot of, obviously I'm a Ravens fan. It reminds me a lot of J.K. Dobbins. Coming out of college, small guy, really fast, obviously really slippery, can basically break every tackle. Obviously he's a home runner, man. Like every time he touches the ball, like fans used to be on the edges of their seats. I also think the fact that this running back room usually is not the healthiest of running back rooms. Obviously you might have Raheem Mostert missing some time with hamstring issues. You might have Jeff Wilson missing some time. Like everyone that steps into this running back room, usually they don't stay healthy for a long period of time. So I think he'll get a lot of reps. I think he'll get the ball, and if he can stay healthy, he might have a great rookie year. He might get something like 700 yards if he stays healthy. And obviously, I think like something like, especially on like fast downs, they'll try to get him to touch that ball really, really early. So I like him. I think he's a good ad, and obviously it was a massive steal to get him in the 3rd round. I think he's someone that could have gone in the 2nd.
Yeah. And do you think the Dolphins should be interested in Dalvin Cook? There's a lot of hype for that. Do you think they need him, considering what you just said about their running back room?
Yeah. Everyone in this division needs to add running backs. Running backs in this division never stay healthy. And obviously Dalvin is a workhorse, man. Like obviously 1,100 rushing yards in the past 4 seasons. Like all he does is get yards. All he does is score touchdowns. And basically that's what you need on offense. Do you need more yards? You need more touchdowns. You need someone to take the pressure off of a quarterback that basically is coming off of multiple concussions. So they should be looking to get him. And obviously they have the advantage of, obviously, they're at an attractive prospect in terms of they can challenge the postseason. Obviously, the Bills can do that, but the Bills don't have the cap advantage. So Dolphins probably should push all the way to get Dalvin Cook. And obviously the next few weeks will be crucial to see what happens.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait, man. This season's going to be so hype. Thanks so much for coming on, Richmond. It's always a blast to have you on the show. And it was great to talk some Dolphins football with you.
Hey, thanks, Alex, Pablo. I enjoyed it. Good luck to your Bears. Good luck to the Ravens. I see you got Lamar Jackson back there in the back, listening, ear hustling, trying to see what the Dolphins gonna do. So yeah, I see you eavesdropping for the Ravens back there a bit. I had fun chopping it up with you guys, and I appreciate y'all having me on the show. So thanks again.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. Thanks again, Pablo. Great stuff as always. Appreciate all the support, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Stay tuned all season long, and have a great one. Peace out.